Hello and welcome to Higher or Lower, a show brought to you by oddschecker and Spreadex. This week we look at the Premier League and Championship action, and Jack and I give our thoughts on whether we think it will be higher or lower than Spreadex's midpoints. Obviously this week we're a man light with George off ill. I think he's been celebrating Oxford's flying start in League One a little bit too much. And another elephant in the room is that we have a lovely new studio here.
Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
George does not know what he's missing out on.
No, he doesn't. And maybe that will aid his recovery, and he'll be back as soon as possible. So we'll kick off proceedings then by looking at the scoreboard. It's very pretty reading for you and George at the top there with 53%.
Solid.
Very good. Very good. Above the 50% mark, which I think is a testament to you both.
Yeah, happy with that. We'll look to kick on.
Yeah. Well, we can keep going up. Yes. I can only go up.
As Yaz says, the only way is up.
Exactly. So I'm on 47%, which unfortunately is a little below the guys at home on Twitter who have 50%. But this is my week. I'm sure of it.
It is. I agree.
Sure of it.
I agree.
And I'll be up over that 50% mark after this weekend of sport.
Yeah.
Right. So we kick off in the Championship then with Rotherham versus Ipswich, and we're looking at the Supremacy market. Ipswich are favourites, even though they're the away side, with the midpoint at 1.2. Spread is 1.1 to sell and 1.3 to buy. I guess after 3, we'll show our paddles. So let's go. 3, 2, 1.
Both
there we go. Look at that. Agree.
Solid
Take it away then.
Well, we obviously need Ipswich to win by 2 or more here, don't we? As far as this Supremacy is concerned, which is quite unusual. We're used to just trying to pick a winner and sometimes obviously get the draw on side. Ipswich haven't won by more than 2 away from home so far this season, but I think you can't be put off by that, I don't think, against this Rotherham side. It pains me to talk about Ipswich in such glowing terms, but I'm going to do it. But seriously, they've been sensational this season. Obviously, a lot of very shrewd judges, some of which can't be with us today. No clues given there. Highlighted them as far as they were just going to carry on where they left off last season. I think their underlying data, their processes was phenomenal. And took them to carry on. They couldn't have really got off to a better start. 9 wins from 11, swept everyone before them really. And away from home, they won the first 4 on the bounce, didn't they? So you can't argue with how they've gone. They've carried the momentum on. McKenna has just been sensational. I think he's getting praised left, right and centre. And everything about the club is on an upward trajectory at the moment, which is pretty much the opposite of what can be said about Rotherham.
I think that's it, isn't it? Is the gulf between quality here.
Yeah.
As you said, McKenna is getting all the plaudits. It seems like Ipswich can do no wrong.
No, they can't.
So I'm expecting that to continue here. The guys on X, 78% are with us. Higher here.
Everyone's loving the Ipswich at the moment. Well, I say everyone. There's a small demographic of people that aren't quite so keen, but they're having to suck it up at the moment because they are being superb. And I said, I think you look at the flip side of that, and with Matt Taylor, he's just not really been able to turn Rotherham into a solid Championship side. He said much the same himself. Hugel's equaliser against Southampton last time out was a kind of bit of a bonus point as such, but it was a vital one for him. And he said if they hadn't got that, he probably would have been sacked over the international break. But he's just had his 50th game in charge. They've only won 9 of those, lost 25, so lost half those games that he's been in charge. So this looks like another tough one for him. And I think Ipswich side, top scorers in the league, 25 goals and 11. This can only go one way. You can't not side with Ipswich in this one. Yeah,
I completely agree. So both of us on the same side there.
We are. And X.
And X
all of
as
us
well.
Together.
All 3. We're all in. Next up is the Merseyside derby then. Pretty big one. Early one on Saturday. We're starting off with the bookings market, which I know is one of your favourites. The midpoint is 62, so the spread is 60 to sell and 64 to buy. This market is 10 points for a booking and 25 for a red. If you get booked twice, it's 35. It's the 10 plus the 25. So after 3, 2, 1, go.
A difference of opinion.
Well, you're the bookings guy. You can kick us off.
It's a very high line, Dan. It's a very high line. And I think your instinct is to go Merseyside derby. It's got to be loads of bookings in it.
Yep.
And obviously I can understand that. I just feel that with how Sean Dyche is going to set Everton up, I just feel it might well be a case that he's going to go sit deep and he'll want all the action to be in front of his side, look to try and smash anything on the counter-attack. So without a game being stretched too far, without those high transitions, I just feel that it does lend itself to be more of a sort of cagey, bats the wall affair than that kind of end-to-end game where you tend to see cards. Saying that, an early goal or two can change that. But you know, one of the first things I look at, you see, I love my bookings market, and I certainly do, is the referee. It's a firm friend of mine from the Spreadex 6 days when we started out, Craig Pawston, the man in charge. So absolutely, a referee, he tends to be all or nothing. And so you look at his stats this season so far, he started with just 1 red card in that Burnley game against Manchester City, so 25 points. And last time out, only showed 10. But sandwiched in the middle of that 70, 80 and 90. So obviously I'm siding it being a calm day for him. Let's hope he has a nice breakfast before this one.
Well, yeah, I'm going for the complete opposite, and I'm using those 8 yellows, 9 yellows as my ammunition to suggest there will be. And I've fallen straight into your trap that you mentioned at the start of your point then. It's a Merseyside derby. It's going to be feisty. Liverpool have received the most red cards. Rightly or wrongly, they've had 4 this season.
Incredible start.
And you're usually the international watch guy, and I've gone with Klopp here, saying all of the South Americans that have been away on international duty coming back for an early kickoff.
Yeah.
Maybe the likes of McAllister will be a little bit tired, flying in with some late challenges.
Yeah.
Early doors, hopefully, you get a few in the back pocket before half time. Yeah. The two sides are averaging 3.5 bookings per game between them, which obviously leaves me wanting a little bit more here.
And me not.
And you not. But it is a derby.
It is a derby.
With hopefully tired legs from international break. So maybe we get a feisty affair, who knows.
I pinned my hopes as well on the fact that last season we only saw 40 points in both the fixtures, home and away. So I've gone with that. There's been a little bit of history as far as not so many cards in recent times. And a quirky stat for you on Craig Pawston, if you fancy it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
In charge of Liverpool, I'd looked back through the history books, and it took quite a long while to lead back to see the last time he showed at least 6 yellow cards, or 60 booking points at least. And you have to go back to 2015, January 2015, for an away game at Sunderland, which saw Liam Bridcut pick up 2 yellow cards and therefore a red. And he showed 85 points that day, so you're hoping for something similar. But how many games has he taken charge of, including Liverpool, since then?
Not sure.
30.
30.
So a fair few, including the Merseyside derby in 2017, where we showed 4 yellow cards in that one as well.
So that means surely it's time for that.
That is a one way of looking at it, Dan. Everything has to end at some point in time.
Yeah, you're correct. Right, so if you don't think there's going to be much action with the bookings, what about goals? Let's look at the total goals market. Midpoint is 3.5, so quite a high line. 3.4 to sell, 3.6 to buy. 3, 2, 1. Oh, we're back on the same team.
Back on the same hymn sheet.
Firstly, X is also with us, but only 52%, so it's not an overwhelming,
cool.
not an overwhelming amount.
What do you reckon's put them off there?
There's not going to be that many goals.
That could be the one.
So my rationale is Everton haven't scored in the last 3 Merseyside derbies.
Yeah.
And they're not giving me that much hope that they're going to score here at all. Despite Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming back in, looking okay, if he can last the 90 minutes, maybe he will get on the score sheet. I don't think so. I do feel kind of bad saying I don't think there'll be lots of goals because I'm usually the one looking for fun.
You are.
But I'll get my fun
not
from
on
the
a Saturday
bookings.
lunchtime.
Yeah, 12:30 is too early. I definitely don't fancy it here. But that's basically it. I don't think Everton are going to score. I don't necessarily think Liverpool are going to run away and score 4. Yeah. I really don't. So I have to go lower.
Yeah, I think you look at the bare stats of it and you'd probably suggest the knee-jerk reaction is to go higher because, you know, Liverpool have scored 3 goals in every home game this season. Yeah. All of Everton's away games have been over this number, which is quite a surprise given how we normally see them being quite tight and turgid. Yeah. But I just feel that there's a lot does lend itself this time, as you rightly said, right at the top of that, it's a high line. And when there's a high line where we need 4 or more goals, my general instinct is to go lower than that. Generally regardless of the opposition, especially when this one should be fairly tight. It's also off the back of the international break, as you rightly said, and my international watch is focused on the 3 main strikers for Liverpool, obviously where you'd expect the goals to come from. So Salah played both games for Egypt in the UAE over on Monday night. His last game was. Nunez played both games, so 180 minutes for Uruguay in Colombia, then Uruguay finishing on Wednesday morning. And Luis Diaz was the same, 180 minutes for Colombia, in Colombia, and then over to Ecuador. So all those coming back from fairly lengthy trips, say tired legs, and an early kick-off on a Saturday, which we all know is not one of Jurgen Klopp's favourites. So I think it points towards being a bit more cautious on the goal line, especially with how we expect Everton to set up. Yeah,
for sure. And I think I read actually Núñez picked up a little niggle as well, right? So he might not be firing.
He might not be.
Quite often isn't anyway. Anyway, moving on from the early kickoff then to arguably the biggest game of the weekend is Chelsea and Arsenal. We've got a couple of markets here, but we'll start off with the Supremacy with the away side Arsenal 0.2 favourites.
Yes.
So that's 0.1 to sell, 0.3 to buy.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Oh, we're on the same side again.
Yeah, this was a last-minute change. Not quite that last minute. But last night I actually flipped from going the other way around. Why have you gone?
Well, I mean, I usually try and get the draw on side here.
Indeed.
But I've obviously not done that today, purely because I just think Arsenal win at a canter, if I'm perfectly honest.
Wow, okay. That's very bullish.
Yeah, I just think like Chelsea have shown a little bit of improvement, right? That's clear to see. I just don't think enough.
Yeah.
And my guy, Nick Jackson, I think Saliba's just going to keep him quiet. I've been so impressed by Saliba, particularly his performance against Man City.
Yeah.
He just looks class. I think he'll have no issues keeping Chelsea. Well, I just don't think Chelsea score. So really all Arsenal need to do is score one. And there's a bit of profit there. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Yeah. Chelsea have only won 1 of the last 7 against Arsenal. I really can't see them making... Yeah, I can't see them winning at all. No. What about you?
Well, yeah, we're obviously on the same hymn sheet there as well. But I'm not overly convinced with Chelsea either. I just don't think that they've picked up a couple of good results. But when you look at it, it was Burnley and Fulham, and Burnley, like, let's be honest, if you change their name to Luton or Sheffield United, they're in the same kind of boat as that, and no one really look at it too much. I think they've been a massive underachievement or massive disappointment for what many thought Burnley were going to offer this season. So not so much a big deal possibly as we'd thought about that one. And Fulham, I watched that game, and Fulham were terrible that night, and I think they kind of admitted much the same thing. Silva said they were very passive and stood off Chelsea and let them have it. So this will be very different for Chelsea. This will be a step up. I think this is a bit of a litmus test for them. If Chelsea can get a positive result out of that, then I'd certainly be in the camp now to say, well, yeah, the processes all season have been pretty strong. But as you rightly say, they've created chances but not had the personnel to finish it off. And I just think Arsenal matched them up very well over the whole field. Sterling obviously ripped Burnley apart last time out, and I just think Ben White, with Saka's help in that respect, if he does play left side again, is a different story. And I think Ben White's massively underrated as well. Yeah. And I'm sure once the current regime moves on, he'll be back in the England squad when that happens. So yeah, and you rightly mentioned Saliba as well. I just think he's been sensational. As long as he gets Haaland out of his pocket, I think he'll put whoever's up front for Chelsea in it. And Arsenal have been superb away from home. They had the best Premier League record away from home last season, since the start of last season. 22 away games played. They won 15 of them. 48 points won on the road is phenomenal effort.
Yeah, that's great.
Over 2 points a game average, I say, is the best so far. Built on a solid defence, which is a good way, because as you say, you only need to nick a goal, and you've got it. And so they've not conceded away from home yet this season, have they, from their 3 games? So it looks good to me, and you're right to say they've got a good record recently against Chelsea. So we will take that to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so the second market is the time of first match goal. So after we've said that Arsenal are going to smash Chelsea.
Well, you said that.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said. Yeah. Right, so it's 36.5 then. Time of first goal is the midpoint. So 35 to sell and 38 to buy. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I've gone early.
I've gone.
So you're going to oppose me after seeing
that. Yeah, that was
so I'll start again with X. Yeah. 72% think lower. So that's a lot of people on my side.
Early goal.
And the main thing I wanted to say is that in the last match between these two sides, Arsenal had 3 goals before this.
They did.
So on that note, the second match goal is 60 to sell and 63 to buy. So I'd probably rather take that. I'd probably rather sell time of second goal, because
Yeah.
Well, I've said Arsenal are going to smash Chelsea.
You have.
Maybe there's 2 or 3 in the first half. Who knows? What are you going to come back at me with?
Well, yeah, I just feel that. So I mentioned that superb away record. It is built on a very, very solid defence. They've kept 13 clean sheets in those 22. So we've already mentioned Chelsea's problems up front.
Yeah.
I think again this is a game where that's set to continue. They've failed to score in 13 Premier League games in 2023, which I think is the highest of any side that's been playing in it since, say, the start of the year. And it just feels that Arsenal have got that strength there. But despite Chelsea's problems, they have been pretty solid at the back. Only Arsenal and Manchester City have got a better defensive record than them. The 2 defeats at home this season have come by a 1-0 scoreline with kind of goals later than the line we've set here. So not many goals in either of these 2 sides, home or away games so far this season. So average for Chelsea's first goal at home is 39 minutes. They've hit the first 2 were under 18 and 17, but you look at the opposition and you feel that's probably fair. Yeah. Since then, it's been 48 and 73, and Arsenal's average is 46.7. So they have kind of struggled to break sides down away from home, be it by design or just the way things gone. Bournemouth was the exception to that last time out when they scored after 17 minutes. But I think Bournemouth, again, we can say a side are in trouble at the moment. Yep. Prior to that, 54 and 69 with opening goals in 1-0 wins. So I'm going down that route.
Nice, you've got the stats to back you up, but I guess we'll see next week.
Thank goodness for WhoScored.com.
Yeah, exactly. Right, moving on then. Sheffield United versus Man United. Going for total goal minutes, which is the accumulated minutes of the goals scored. Again, it's quite a high line. The midpoint is 161. Yeah. So to sell is 156 and to buy is 166. So 166 to buy feels quite high for me, but I don't want to give away. I don't want to give away my answer. No. But 3, 2, 1.
You did a little bit though.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Did a little bit. I wasn't too cryptic there. Yeah. I'll let you take it away first.
Right. Okay. I think this is based on the fact that Sheffield United obviously got thumped 8-0.
Yeah.
Are Man United in the same kind of vein of form as Newcastle? I'd certainly say no. For Sheffield United, the season just gets worse, doesn't it? You just don't think it's going to get any worse than they're at a low point, and obviously that horrendous injury last time out has kind of compounded that. 1 point. Their expected points this season is a measly 2.53, and they still haven't been managed to hit that with just 1 point so far coming against Everton. Worst defence in the league as well. So I can see why, obviously, generally speaking, with Man United as visitors, you'd expect them to roll up and knock them over quite convincingly. But they're obviously not on any kind of form at the moment themselves either. So the one thing I'll kind of take from it is the international break, I would assume, would help Sheffield United as far as they're going to work on their defensive structure, look to try and get a foothold in game, not to get blown apart. And I looked back to the last international break, and the first game after that was Tottenham away as well. So a super hard fixture, one of the hardest in the league at the moment. Yep. And of course they've all but managed to win there. And certainly looked like they're keeping a clean sheet until that very, very, very late capitulation where they conceded 2 goals, like about 98 and 90 plus 10. So going on the same basis as that, obviously if they do concede very late again, then we're in trouble as far as this goal line is concerned. But I feel that a lot of the goals we've seen have been either freaks. We saw that last time out for Sheffield United with the deflected loop up onto the crossbar and hit in off the goalkeeper. Late goals as well, and I just think the variance is probably going to even itself out against the, say, United side that are mid-table for points, mid-table for process, and so I think they are struggling a little bit out currently.
For sure, like you mentioned the Tottenham game there, that's like one of the main points I've got, is the only way I can see this making up is basically if there's a complete replica of that, which, it is possible.
It's been a lot of late goals.
I really don't think it's the case, and you also mentioned the 8-0 against Newcastle. Man United have only scored 9 goals this whole season, and obviously Sheffield United aren't the strongest of oppositions, but I really don't expect United to be banging them in. Particularly like in the international break. Okay, fair. Fernandes and Rashford look in quite good form, but Højlund has been in the press this week saying he's been battered left, right, and centre. Either he's going to be really grumpy and just go hell for leather and just prove a point, or continue that. I don't think they're going to be firing them in. So
I think the internationals were a fair point, because it does mean these guys are coming back from travels, are a bit leggy. And obviously, they've not had the amount of time to hone where they're going to exploit weaknesses and so on the training pitch. So I think it's got echoes very much of Man United's last away game, which was at Burnley, who obviously came up with Sheffield United last time, ended in a 1-0 win for United. I can see a similar scenario in this one.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So our penultimate game then is Aston Villa and West Ham. Another good game. It's a great weekend of football. We're back on the Supremacy market. Villa, the home side, are favourites. 0.5 is the midpoint. 3, 2, 1, go. Higher. Again, we're on the same team.
We are on the same team.
Quite a lot today that we're in agreement.
It's George normally just throws these little curveballes in. I think we're more harmonious, aren't we?
Yeah, this is a nice show today, isn't it? Purely, I've been very impressed by Villa.
Yeah. Stunning.
I mean, it's pretty hard not to be, right? They've won all 3 games at Villa Park, averaging 4 goals per game. That's the argument done. And if we get 4 goals here and West Ham don't score, that'll be a lovely bit of profit for us both.
Yeah.
However, Villa have only won 1, I think, of the last 14 against West Ham, which, I should have just left that out of the rationale, really, shouldn't I?
Well, it's balance, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We'll offer a balanced argument for the guys at home. But I think Villa are going to do well here. Home form is great. Everything Emery seems to do at the moment, in the Prem anyway, looks top quality.
Yeah.
I see no reason why that won't continue. West Ham have been decent too, don't get me wrong, but I think Villa at home are a different beast. I'm assuming you're going to echo those?
I am going to echo that. Yeah, they've been sensational. I started off actually by saying the same thing, that fans of the head-to-head records, fans of the historical stats and results will not be a fan of this particular selection because they haven't won in any of the last 10. You've obviously took it even further than that, beyond that. But I just can't overlook Emery's record since he's come to Villa Park. It's been absolutely sensational in the league. He's now had 33 games in charge of Villa, so we're pretty much up to a full season of him in charge, 38 obviously being a full season. He's won 20 of those and he's only lost 8. And he's got the 4th best points total in the league since he's been at the club. He's only behind Manchester City, Arsenal and Liverpool.
Wow.
And at home, again, sensational record. He's won 12 of his 16 Premier League games there, which is a record that can only be beaten by Man United, Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal. Although Arsenal have 1 more point than him, they have played 2 more games at home than Villa have. So it shows you the company that they're keeping as a home side. And if it was any of those sides really taking on West Ham at home, you know that you would be getting a much different line to this going in their favour. So I very much like it. As you rightly said, they've absolutely smashed everyone off the park at home. 6-1 Brighton, the last home result as well. So and you, again, rightly say, West Ham have been okay. But I think there's a little bit of gloss to their away results. The first one was a draw against Bournemouth, and I think you looked at it and, well, that's not bad, but doesn't look such a sexy point now after how Bournemouth have gone. The Brighton win, obviously the standout, but last time they did go to Liverpool. Very comparable stats, as we said, to Villa at home and got beat 3-1. They've been conceding a lot of goals, which is quite unusual for David Moore's side. Only 1 clean sheet so far this season. Their expected goals against is only better than the bottom 4 at the moment. So that's how their defensive process is going. I think if this goes into a shootout, it's all Villa. Yep,
I completely agree. It's nice to hear all of those stats on my side as well. Right, so the final game then, hopefully we can disagree on one more before we finish up. Okay, and it's total goals market in Spurs versus Fulham, the Monday night game.
Yes.
It's 3.2 goals is the midpoint, so 3.15 to sell, 3.35 to buy. So for the last time today, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, and we have agreed.
We have agreed. Well, either we both do really well this week and we smash George's total out of the park, or we both flop and he looks pretty good for having a week off.
It's certainly accentuating the positive here, I think. I'm very confident.
You're very confident. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be on your side then if you're very confident.
Cool. I'm surprised there. I thought you might have gone on the higher end of this one. Tell me why.
Well, it's not typically a high-scoring game. If you look at the last 6 between these sides, this line of 3.2 would have been lower every time.
Yeah.
So, literally on that, I'm happy to go lower again. One big thing for me here is Son.
Yeah.
Although he did get a goal and an assist against Vietnam after his he looked to be injured at half-time, right? Hobbled off, comes back on, scores an assist. So make of that what you will, but I don't think he's particularly fit. obviously they have other firepower, but like Richarlison, I'm not sure. Maddison's obviously having a great time. Kulusevski, I'm not sure he's going to pick up all of the slack if Son isn't there.
Yeah.
Fulham, I really don't know if they'll get a goal at all, to be honest. At the moment, they seem to be struggling. So I just think 3.2 is too high. Like, simple as that, really.
Yeah.
I see Tottenham winning this, probably by more than 1 goal, but not by 3+, I don't think. What about you?
Well, yeah, they can even win this 3-0 and we'll still be on the right side of it. So I think, yeah, for me, it was just the fact that line ticks over to the fact that we need 4 goals for us to lose this. Or if you go on the other side of the fence, you need 4 goals to get a marginal win. Let's face it, it's not even like, a big one. So I think, like, yeah, Spurs, I really fancy to win it. Which kind of makes the decision a bit tricky, but you're right. I think a 2-0, 3-0 sounds about right for this one. Again, so I watched Fulham against Chelsea. They're awful. Created a couple of chances, but they're powder puff up front. Yeah. They got a few breaks against Sheffield United, and said Sheffield United aren't the best barometer as far as, if you can score goals against them, then great. But yeah, it just does seem the fact that we're going to be looking at a Spurs side here that will get the job done. And simple as that, really. Yeah, just to be on the lower side of the total for us in it. So and Fulham's record in London Derby, is horrendous. They haven't won any of the last 10. They've lost 6 of those, and they've failed to score in 7 of them. So on that basis, that looks very much like a win to 0 for Tottenham. There we go. You're providing all of the stats again that I need to back up my argument, doing my job for me. So thank you very much. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks very much for joining us again. Hopefully next time we'll be back with George and the 3 of us will be going strong again. Thanks for your insight, Jack. Thank you. And everyone at home, please make sure you check out Spreadex for all of your spread betting needs. And if you're a new customer, get involved with their new customer offer, which is bet 10, get 40 on a range of markets, including total goals, which we have mentioned a couple of times here. Don't forget to check out oddschecker for all of your odds comparisons. Make sure you get the best value for your bets. And if you're looking for some stats to inform your betting, then there's no better place than WhoScored.com. Remember though, if you are spread betting, that losses can exceed your initial deposit. And please gamble responsibly. But most of all, enjoy this wonderful weekend of sport. And until next time, cheers guys.